So it seems like in the last 10 years, corporations are trying to do this better. You see innovation labs, you see internal venture arms, because there are all sorts of horror stories about these startups being gobbled up and then they get inside these corporate spaces and the cultures are completely different and they lose a lot of the team and the staff. And so can you talk to us a little bit about the ways that your corporations have evolved in how you work with and acquire startups?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
so, I mean, I think an important point that's always overlooked is everybody gets excited about the outcome and the transaction. That's the easy part, you know. It's actually the integration that's really painful because, to her point, right? If you're a founder and you're not aligned, they're paid. They can leave, right? After they're earned, you know. So it's making sure that those teams are properly integrated and they're a right fit. I would even say even before the acquisition,
Oh, for sure.
such that they're able to stay on and add value. For example, we acquired a company called Whisk, which, to Brandon's point, made all its revenue as a B2B offering that matched grocery stores with I'm blanking here. It matched grocery stores to facilitate kind of e-commerce transactions because obviously we have a big stake in digital appliances. But what was interesting there is even though they're a B2B offering, we cared about their potential to help us do transactions on the B2C level with our mobile phones. And so we brought in that founder and said, we are going to give you, not only are we going to pay you a good amount of money, we are going to give you an elevated title, a seat at the table with execs at Samsung, and you have creative autonomy and resources to do what you want for the next 3 years, right? So that kind of engagement, we're not just buying them for their software, we're making them and giving them seats at the table such that they can help shape and turn the direction of our company from a strategic perspective. I think is what these orgs need to do, or else these founders like WhatsApp are just going to roll out. Founders like Instagram are going to roll out, right? A few years later.
So in your journey of selling your business, did you see learning on the part of your potential partners, like in the moment, or not so much?
Learning in what sense?
Learning in terms of how to interact and engage with you better.
I think this is kind of going back to the idea that if you're getting passed around the organization, they really care. They really are serious about it. And yes, absolutely. So they were trying to learn our product. They were trying to learn our people. They were trying to learn, like, how does this integrate well before we make this transaction complete. So yeah, but I would say that's not always possible with your employees. Like, so your employees can't necessarily get passed around and without you kind of spilling the news to everybody, and then everybody's freaking out about their jobs. So you have to do it from the executive level, leadership level of like looking out for their best interests, that they will get placed in a position that's going to be helpful to them, that they're going to like it, that they're going to get the benefits they need, so that when execution happens, everybody's happy. So there's only so much learning you can do without having the employees going around the company teaching everybody. You can just do it from the executive level of, this would be best for my company and this is the best way we would integrate.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's kick it back out to the audience. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, Mike.
This better be a good question.
Taking other people's jobs.
That is a loyal mic passer. I forgot I had a question. I didn't even. My question is essentially, first off, what's up, y'all? How are you? Thank you for coming here. As a founder, at what point do you start creating the intentional relationships, right, to lead you in the path of acquisition? Because obviously, ideally as a founder, or maybe not ideally, but I know on our side, right, our hearts are set on IPO. We want to do this, boom, boom, boom. But at what point do you create the relationships that it takes to start that dating process?
Yeah. For IPO?
No, for acquisition. Shoot, tell me IPO too. I'm interested.
No, I was trying to clarify. So again, partner is one way, right? So start working with a company on a way where it's a win-win from a business perspective. But before that, we talked earlier about people like to give advice. So even from that perspective, you can find someone in a corporation that can say, hey, I need your thoughts on like a pricing strategy or whatever, just to kind of get that rapport in. Those are two ways I've seen it.
So yeah, it can suck a lot of your time, right? So once you get down this road and once you start talking with people about potential acquisitions, it's going to suck a lot of your time. You could be using that time to market and sell your product, but instead you're talking with potential acquirers. So you have to make a conscious effort of saying, are we doing this or are we not doing this? Like if we're not doing this, then let's take a number. Let's say, hey, nice to meet you. Let's move on. So I wouldn't turn away those relationships when they come to you, because they may come to you early on in your maturity, right? So as you're building out your product, as people find out that you're solving a really cool problem and you got a really cool team that's doing it, you may have some competitors coming to you and say, hey, I like what you're doing. We should have a talk. So you can probably have a conversation at a very surface level. Obviously, I would do an NDA if it was going to be a competitor. But some people are legitimately just trying to fish, what you guys are working on, what's your strategy, where are you going to penetrate the market right now. So being a little bit cautious about that. However, I would keep just a Rolodex of them, right? So I'd kind of be very surface level. I'd keep a Rolodex of them, because down the road, again, when you have the opportunity, when you have to get serious about this, you want to reach back out to them and say, hey, remember when we had that conversation? I think I'm ready to have a deeper conversation now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of, building on that. To be honest, I would say, focus first on building the best business you possibly can, right? Hopefully you are tackling a problem that you're obsessed with solving, right, over the next 7 to 10 years. And that magnetism, right, that passion, everything will convey when you're raising. And, if you're doing such a great job specifically at that problem, at tackling it, like, you'll build a demand, right? The corp dev teams will catch wind, or other investors then for the next round will want to be, start to be oversubscribed and this and that. Like, you ideally want to be able to always come to that table from a position of strength when and if that time comes. And frankly, something like IPO, right? Like aspiring to own it so that, for instance, like BET, these backlashes, right? What I find interesting is almost the onus when you build one of these companies, like it is sort of representing diverse founders, right? Or the community where you've built that business. So oddly enough, Sheila Johnson is sort of like a mentor of mine. I had the great fortune of being in her leadership fellowship program when I went to Harvard Kennedy several years ago. And I've heard firsthand, like they became wealthy, undoubtedly, right? First black billionaires. Yeah. But when Viacom bought BET and what they've done with it, like it literally almost pains her when they see, how it was used and just thrown into the portfolio, right? Because BET was meant to be so much more, you know what I mean? And so, especially in the consumer space, or if it's really addressing a problem like amongst people in the communities or this and that, aspiring for that greatness and something that maybe you can continue to own, right, or build a legacy on. Even if a small percentage, right, of companies go public, like you should never let a statistic, right, of the greater population or a sample size, like dictate what you think you're capable of, right, or achieving. So yeah, I would focus first on that, much more of your energies. And then when the time comes, you can kind of maybe go to the Rolodex, or again, leverage really people at that point who maybe have that interest, to get you shopped, and where you could still hopefully run the business and focus on that. And that'll come. The acquisition offers then will come.
Because from a corp dev perspective, like our general rule of thumb is find best of breed companies who are the best players in the market. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come to you if it's a market we're interested in, and we're just going to focus on the top couple. So.
And you see companies like Snap or whatever, the latest ones, right? Like over the years, get very attractive acquisition offers, right? And they're so emboldened to say no. You know what I mean? Ideally, you should hopefully strive to be in such a powerful position,
Other questions?